see how far Darkseid gets into the Marvel, and how high he scales and goes into Marvel if he were to hypothetically invade. But first off, let's explain the Marvel cosmology. So first off, to put it simply, there are universes, the 616, etc., all these universes. Um, they exist. We can all agree that they exist. Now, there's a multiverse of these universes where where the timeline diverges. Like, um, the girl rejects you, or the girl says yes. I know for one of you, the girl rejected you. Um, dang. But anyhow, hypothetically, where she rejects you, it becomes a universe, and where she accepts you becomes a universe too. Now, to add further onto this concept, there's the idea of multiversal beings or entities that are operating between or outside of an individual universe. For instance, if I were to go to a timeline, go back into its past, and then accidentally end up murdering my grandfather, you wouldn't then have a timeline where I didn't go to a timeline, because it's ultimately an event happening in multiple universes, and the multiverse doesn't split off into multiple multiverses. Well, it does, but that's a story for a different day. But ultimately, that wouldn't become another universe. Um, Next thing we sort of have is the superflow. It's conceptual space. It's where your dreams go. It is where cosmic beings exist and where they can fight without damaging reality. It's superior to overspace because overspace is considered the highest form of reality, and battles within overspace echo down into our cosmos slash world, such as Infinity and Oblivion's battle. Um, uh, so I'd like to add that the super flow is superior to overspace, and overspace is hypothetically where I'd see something like Darkseid maybe, um, but I'd like to go deeper into that. Now there is a macroverse. The macroverse is the idea of, well, there just being a larger universe, but it's also the idea that each universe is a dream, and that universe is viewed as a dream by another universe, and the process continues ad infinitum. That is also the macroverse, I believe. I'll link the scan if you ask for it in the comments, or if you join the server. But suffice to say, um, the where the each universe where you're viewed as but a dream, that's like a pretty that's basically a fictional transcendence. So I'd argue that that's at least one, like infinitely one A out of versal. um I don't really hear people make this argument, but I think that's the argument for it. Simple as that. There's a universe that views another universe as a dream, and the process continues infinitely. So I really do think that's a pretty powerful piece of Marvel scaling. I think that scales below the Superflow, of course, but um, yeah. The next thing we have up in Marvel would be, um, well, honestly, going through all of the Marvel cosmology is probably going to get you bored, so I'm just going to do a quicker go through. So, the neutral zone. This is basically the edge of all things. Antimatter exists here, matter exists here, predatory concepts exist here, Cthulhu like monsters were said to exist here. It's the edge of eternity. Think of yourself as eternity. Now, the neutral zone would hypothetically be your skin. It's the edge. And then eternity himself existed formerly. The seventh iteration existed within the far shore, and for a time the eighth iteration existed within a place called the far shore. The far shore is beyond all life and death, so beyond death. Eternity is basically powerless here. He's like a human here, but Yeah, Living Tribunal, it scales above 7th iteration eternity. 8th iteration eternity, I want to say yes, but at the same time, order and chaos killed him, as well as this, that eternity transcended into a even greater place, but yeah. Um, but yeah, let's get into this, and before someone goes like, Marvel has infinite outerversal transcendences, calm down, Darkseid skills. So the thing is, Darkseid has a really interesting, like, sort of aspect, like a lot of DC characters actually do. I haven't noticed this as much in Marvel, but you can be from a lower cosmological realm, but have affected someone higher. So, for instance, Darkseid corrupted the Source. Now, the Source scales above Darkseid quite a bit. So, first off, you're gonna have the vibratory worlds of the Bleed inside the orrery worlds. There are an infinite amount. It is, and there are multiple infinite amounts or multiverses of them within the Bleed. Um, um, e- just the Bleed that we know of is it has a pan-dimensional root. It's described as both having pan-dimensional like things, said to connect to infinite dimensions pretty easily, high hyperversal. Now, there's Earth 33. Earth 33 views all the other Earths as fictional. It's basically the real world. So, um, that's pretty wild. But yeah, the real world for us is somewhere above Dormammu's layer, maybe, or somewhere around that, but below eternity. Embody eternity, because embody eternity, like the spell to go there was said to kill the reader. To borrow is later on said to be a threat to the reader. There's a lot of scaling to that. So Marvel is not lacking, to say the least. But yeah, Earth 33 should be. You can argue that Earth 33 is 1A, but I'm just gonna say for our purposes that the bleed is outerversal and the speed force is another layer into outerversal, and then there's the time stream, which is like definitely outerversal, whereas the bleed and the speed force are maybe 1A, like low 1A or baseline outerversal.